Distribution provided by Cloud Sigma, the cloud that adapts to you.
Today's episode of This Week in Startups is brought to you by Walker Corporate Law, a boutique law firm specializing in the representation of entrepreneurs. To find out more, visit their site, walkercorporatelaw.com. And by New Relic. Visit newrelic.com/twist and see why thousands of developers worldwide don't deploy without it.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Calacanis, and this is This Week in Startups. This is the program where we talk about startup companies and technology. Every Friday we do our News Roundtable edition. With me is Kieran Callier, our editorial director. How are you, Kieran?
I'm excellent.
All right, and Dalton Caldwell of App.net is with us on the Go-To meeting. Dalton, how are you, my friend? One more time, Dalton. Let me just check the microphone there. How are you doing?
Yeah, I am doing well. It's good to see you.
Great to see you. Thank you for having that awesome radio microphone, and thank you for having that huge, oversized headset. I mean, it's great.
Yeah, it's not mine. It was laying around in the office, but
It looks great. How is everything going at App.net, and how would you describe to people who don't know what App.net is, what it is?
So things are going well. I think it's been, 10 months since it was announced. Maybe, just over 10 months. So the number of applications that's available, there's now hundreds of them available, and I think we just rolled over 130,000 users in the past week. The way I would describe it is it's a social platform that a number of different applications can plug into, and so there's group messaging applications, there's microblogging applications, there's photo sharing applications, and the entire thing is not advertising supported. So the kinds of applications being built and the kind of user experience being built is different than what you might see elsewhere.
And so one might say it's like an open source or a more open version of Facebook or Twitter, or some people I've heard describe it as Twitter as it was originally intended. Was that a fair way to describe it?
I think that the term open has been loaded. One of the things that's been really brilliant I've been reading about in blogs is people taking Google to task about all of we're more open vis-a-vis Android. It's such a loaded term. And so the way I try to describe it is that we want to have more aligned incentives. Like if you're a business, you're going to do what's good for your bottom line. And we've seen businesses do that across the board regardless of the business model. So in our case, by having a services business model, we think our incentives are aligned for developers. The more developers that build on our platform, the more money we're going to make. And so thus we're aligned. Whereas if I just say, we're an open platform and we're more open than everybody else, I don't know. I think that I've seen time and time again companies that say that get into trouble. So I've very consciously not tried to do a battle of who can say who's the most open, and rather say that we just simply have different incentives.
And with us again, back after a long hiatus, Tyler Crowley.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the program. How has Sweden been?
Sweden's great. So
Yeah.
It's very inspiring.
Yeah.
Yeah, very. It's the best kept secret in the startup world, in the entire
Really?
world. Oh, without a doubt.
Tons going on there.
More than LA.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, significant. All right, we'll hear more about that. We've got a very busy news week. I know that Yelp is getting into the delivery business. Dropbox had huge announcements today. The NSA is just continuing to be loathsome. And Microsoft's been reorganized, and there's a new CEO at Zynga. I think I want to go with the Yelp one first. I love Yelp, and I love the idea of delivery, so let's hear it. What's going on at Yelp?
So this is the thing you probably would have thought that Yelp should have done, and so they're finally doing it. They're going to have their own delivery service. Now they're partnering with some companies to do this, Eat24anddelivery.com. It's only in San Francisco and New York to start, eventually going to expand to include other businesses. Right now it's just restaurants, so eventually like spas and salons, you'll be able to book through Yelp. Now they also announced some interesting numbers, 102 million uniques per month, 30% of their traffic is from the mobile web, 10 million uniques from the app. So this new delivery service, what does this mean for Grubhub, Seamless? Is there going to be a conflict of interest for Yelp because now they have an incentive for people to, use these businesses specifically?
There's going to be no conflict of interest.
Okay.
Because they don't control the rating system, right? Obviously the users do. And the rating system, to be honest, is getting a little bit... You really have to become an expert at understanding Yelp to understand the rating system. Here's what happens. There are no 5-star restaurants, and there's no 1- and 2-star restaurants, right? Like if there are... You would never go to a 1- or 2-star restaurant on Yelp, and there's no 5. So that means you really have a range of realistically 3 to 4. There's very few 4.5s. There's very few 2.5 and unders. So really, the entire range of Yelp is 3 stars to 4.5. Has everybody else noticed this?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So what that basically means is you have either a 3, 3.5, 4, 4. There's 4 stars, and you just have to look at that. Some of my most loved restaurants are 3.5. Now, 4.5 means it's really, truly exceptional. 4 means it's probably really good, but 3.5 could be really good too.
Well, and you like to look for that in, the gun-shaped reviews, right?
Yeah.
So mostly 5 stars, 4, 3.
Yeah, but I think the system, what happens is so many users go to a place, and then because they don't allow people to give half stars when they vote, it just all winds up being in the same range. Also, it's a little bit... Yelp is really driven by people who have a bad service experience, I find. And so there's this like limitation with the value of Yelp. So what I do is I do a Yelp Zagat mix. I look for things like Yelp is very good at what's close to me. I like reading some of the reviews. If I see it's a Yelp elite person, I think it's great. And then I just cross-reference with Zagat, which obviously got bought by Google. But this is a great thing. I mean, to be able to order from it, and OpenTable is already inside of there, so you
That's
can
right, for doing
do
reservations.
reservations. But ordering is a natural.
Exactly.
And this is the Uber. This is the direct influence of Uber and Travis Kalanick, which I'm an investor in Uber, full disclosure. But everybody's expectation is that everything is going to work seamlessly and fast and quick and on demand in your iPhone.
Right?
That's the expectation of the world today. Whether it's Hotel Tonight, which I used in New York to get into the Ace Hotel, it just you take out your phone, you click, and all of a sudden you have a hotel room. Like, that took out 8 steps. Everything is going to get fast and easy, and if the person already has the audience and they plug that in, it's game over, I think.
The one-click economy.
It's the one-click economy. Thank you, Tyler. There's
we
a
go.
great insight.
Yeah, I think that if you look at the recent merger, who was it? Was it Seamless? Who did they merge with? This was a few months ago.
Yelp?
Basically the largest. No. Seamless did.
Oh.
There was, how there's a ton of these this is like one of those startup ideas that people always try and it never really works.
Yeah.
The 2 largest ones, it was Seamless and one other one recently merged.
Oh,
And so
really?
I think you're seeing people trying to get economies of scale because as a consumer, if
They
there's 50 different
Menu
food
pages.
Oh, menu pages.
menu pages.
Yeah.
There you go. It's, fragmentation doesn't help consumers if you want them to start adopting this stuff. I tend to agree with you that with the scale that Yelp has, it puts them in a good position, and there'll probably be more M&A on the Seamless side to just try to get as much scale as they can get.
I had a real experience today. I was on AngelList, and I saw a startup. I can't remember the name of it, and I'm going to assume it's public, but it allows you to pick like your preferences, like I'm gluten-free, I'm carb light, whatever, and you pick those, and then you order, and then it orders for you, and it sort of navigates what you're going to get, right? So they just sort of put this other layer in it. It's an interesting feature, like, if you're gluten-free, like they'll actually find the restaurants for you and all that kind of stuff. But Yelp's a juggernaut. I saw they were being sued again today, too.
Well, this is this
Or they're appealing.
old lawsuit from a couple years ago coming back. So, a bunch of business owners unhappy about
Yeah.
the way they think if you advertise and some of your bad reviews get hidden. And that's
Yeah, well, here's what happens. When you advertise on Yelp, this is why there's some confusion. I looked into this a little bit. If you advertise on Yelp, then you get to pick and put at the top of your page your favorite review. So they give you the ability to sort of...
game.
It's not gaming. It's more like crafting. Like, you get to put a highlight up top. Now, if you don't pay them, you don't get to put that up top. So that is a distinct editorial advantage. It is like paying for play in a way. And I don't think you get to take stuff off. But then everybody, what happens is every business then goes and games Yelp. Yelp looks at the gaming and they take it out. So then all these businesses are like, well, I put great reviews. Why are my great reviews not at the top? It's like, well, because you wrote them, and they know you wrote them because you used the same IP address of your restaurant, and 4 people in your restaurant wrote 4 reviews on the same IP address. You're an idiot.
Right.
Like, at least have somebody go write 10 reviews and then write yours as the 11th 3 months after you have the phone conversation with the person at Yelp. But what you're seeing is Yelp is diversifying their revenue. I think because this is such a thorny issue, they want to get out of this sort of premium listing business, and they would much rather be in the business of
Revenue sharing.
and some other lines that maybe make it less controversial, as it were.
I mean, that makes sense. What do you think of the newest redesign of the Foursquare app? How they're really going hard to
Yeah. It's good.
pushing you into going to a place, right? I mean, the design says it all.
Yeah, and also I really love, and this would be a good opportunity for you to pull that up if you have it on your computer, since your computers aren't Kieran. They also have the bottom half shows you where all your friends are on a map, and so this is kind of meaningless in Los Angeles, but in New York, I saw like, oh wow, these 7 or 8 people I know were all downtown, and I could see where they were checked out. I was like, oh, there's Fred Wilson. Oh, there's this person. There's that person. I actually was thinking of like texting them, like, oh yeah, hey, I'm going out for a drink. Where are you? Can I swing by or whatever and say hi? So I think that actually the critical mass in New York, actually you can start to see their service working, but they are going to go directly for Yelp, and I don't know what's holding them back. Like they just need to go for it. And they should go into the food ordering business. Why not? I mean, there's got to be something. What do you think, Dalton? Is Foursquare got a future or not? I mean, people have been dogging the company recently.
Yeah, I mean, even ignoring all of the personal ad hominem stuff that's been going on, the question is if they have enough traffic. Do they have sufficient traffic to make that kind of lead gen business work? And that's the thing that I think the jury's still out on. Definitely in New York it works, but just think about how much organic traffic Yelp has on a daily basis. That's where you want to be in the market if you want to start diversifying into this transactional stuff. And I'm not really sure. I haven't looked at their numbers, but I don't know if Foursquare has enough.
Is Yelp and Foursquare big in Europe, Tyler?
Yelp is not.
Right.
Foursquare is not.
Neither. What do people use over there for restaurants?
Good question. There is a proprietary ones with it. This is where Europe gets very fragmented. They don't
have like.
This is the benefit of the U.S. is we can build these huge brands
with 300 million plus users.
They all play to home favorite to
so 20, 30, 40, 50 million user bases.
Not even that. Sweden's 9 million people, so to them a success is 1 million users, and it's just entrenched in Sweden.
What, 5 people work at the company kind of thing?
10
people, something
10,
like that?
20, and they work, and then what they do is they test in their home market, whether it's Poland or Lithuania or Romania or Sweden or whoever, and then they have visions of jumping into the U.S. market.
Yeah.
So they kick the tires on it there.
And nobody ever really makes it into the U.S. market.
Very few.
It's never really happened. Hey, let me take a moment to thank my good friend Scott Walker of the Walker Corporate Law Group. They are a boutique law firm specializing in the representation of entrepreneurs and startups. Scott's a great guy. Tyler knows him.
Yep, love him.
Walker Corporate Law encourages fixed fees. What that means is you're not going to pay by the hour. They'll just tell you, like, hey, for your seed round, for your A round, we're going to charge you this, for this employment deal. And how do they do that? Well, this is a boutique law firm that specializes. They don't have like these glorious offices and $100 square foot space that you're actually paying for when you go to one of those big law firms. They have lawyers, though, who have 10 to 20 years of experience, many of them at those big firms who now want to just service startups and have a little bit more of a chill life. Examples of services, their client Mighty Text, which just got a great write-up in TechCrunch, by the way, engaged Walker Corporate Law for their $2,900 all-you-can-eat startup package and then used them for their seed financing and then their stock option plan. They work on mergers and acquisitions, license agreements, terms of service, and privacy policies. If you want to talk to the founder, Scott Ed Walker, call him directly, 415-979-9998. 415-979-9998. Scott at Walker Corporate Law, or visit walkercorporatelaw.com. Scott at Walker Corporate Law, or visit walkercorporatelaw.com. And go ahead and thank at Scott Ed Walker on Twitter. Next story. What do we have next? Is it there's something going on at Dropbox? That was the big story.
Well, Dropbox, this is probably another thing you would have expected Dropbox to do, given where it started. You will now be able, hopefully, once developers are on board with this, be able to have an always-on hard drive. Now, their data stores API will allow apps to write data about themselves into Dropbox from one device, you read it on another. It's not just, things like documents. It's like contacts, your drawings, your Angry Birds game, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then they're doing this thing called drop-ins, and that's something that developers can add to an app with a few lines of code. They have a chooser and a saver. The chooser gives access to the files in your Dropbox from web and mobile apps. The saver allows saving to Dropbox with one click. Chooser right now is more places than the saver option. They've already integrated the drop-ins with Shutterstock, Louder, and Yahoo Mail.
Yeah.
So is this something that Apple, Google, anybody else can stop Dropbox from doing?
Well, here's the thing. Other people have added this feature. So when you're on Gmail, you frequently see now, when you get an attachment, it says, hey, save it to your Google Drive, right? And Google Drive is an option now when you're doing attachments. So this is a must-do, this sort of drop-ins thing. Mm-hmm. What is brilliant about this is there are a lot of people are looking for an authentication service in addition to Facebook and Twitter. So this is an authentication service that has a hard drive, right? So Facebook and Twitter, when you authenticate with them, there's no real place to store stuff. So it's great for a developer to say like, oh yeah, use your Twitter login. But then if you take a bunch of pictures or whatever, you want to store it somewhere, that's a cost for that startup. And if it's something big, it could be a big cost. So this is just another authentication service play, I think. I think it's less about the storage and more about identity and Dropbox identity being your identity and them trying to level that up. And they have to do something because, storage boxes have now, this idea of like cloud storage has been totally commodified.
Right.
Between Google Drive, you have Space Monkey coming out with that, which I'm an investor in. SkyDrive.
Right.
Everybody's on this now, and it's going to get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. The interesting thing is, this is another reason not to cancel your Dropbox account, right?
Right.
And so I think that's one of the things they're doing is saying, hey, how do we keep people from canceling their Dropbox account because they got a Google Drive one or this other one for free? And as people keep attacking them and it keeps coming for free, there is more reason to do that. Like Chrome now, when you buy a Chromebook, it comes with a huge drive. And Chromebooks, by the way, are having a little bubble up.
Yep.
They're doing very well. So, but what's really amazing is 175 million users. Not sure how many pay, but it'd be reasonable.
They weren't saying how many are paying.
Well, it'd be reasonable to say 1% or something like that. I could see them having 1 million people using the service easily. And so, Drew has done an amazing job. You know Drew pretty well, right, Dalton?
Yeah, I do.
What do you think of the announcement?
Probably 7 or 8 years now, and I saw him a few weeks ago. I think this is a really interesting API. Just watching the company over the years change, I think it's completely consistent with even what his original vision was. I think that's something that's really cool about Dropbox is he had a very crisp idea about what he wanted to be, and it's still on that path. And you don't see that very often, right? Where someone before they launch knows what they want it to be, and then like years and years later, it's still the same exact thing. That's rare. I think you're right that this has everything to do with iCloud. It has everything to do with Google Drive, and it'll be interesting to see how they can get developer adoption for it. One thing that is competitive is we have a file API as part of our services layer. It definitely does not do syncing and all the stuff that Dropbox guys do as well, but the idea of where app developers can store data is something I've been thinking about a lot. So I agree with you that does solve a problem for app developers that current social APIs are not really solving. So I totally agree with you on that one.
And see, Dropbox has this great advantage. They are pro open platform, right? Like Facebook and Twitter are not pro open platform. And then I heard Zuckerberg was in the front row for this. I don't know, was he involved in the announcement?
They're good friends. No, they're good friends.
Okay. So Zuck was in the front row, which I thought was like, hey, that's interesting. Like,
Something else going on there.
well, I thought, yeah, because listen, Drew's never selling the company. I mean, if you don't sell to Steve Jobs, you're not selling to Zuckerberg.
Right.
I mean, so famously, Drew said no to Steve Jobs, and iCloud, Dropbox would have been iCloud, but iCloud is still terrible. I don't know if anybody here uses it, but I paid for it, and I feel like an idiot for paying for it because it doesn't really work, with the exception of if you restore your phone. That does seem to work pretty well, the backing up of your phone, but generally it sucks. But this has everything to do with Mailbox, and I think what Dropbox is going to be is a next generation Microsoft, and so.
Well, that's Box though, isn't it? So this is what's interesting to me is Dropbox has always been way stronger on consumer versus Box. Box did all this crazy stuff with SharePoint and all this really unsexy thing, stuff. And so if you're a large enterprise, I think you're already using Box, right? Just based on the revenue numbers.
And
so by focusing on prosumer, which Dropbox has done so far, it'll just be interesting to see how they choose to, like, what place in the market they think is theirs, and how they're going to expand. Like, I know they're doing a lot on enterprise as well, right? Like, there's a bunch of new product initiatives coming out, so.
This is the top-down versus bottom-up IT revolution that's going on, right? So if you're a top-down company, you have Outlook, you're not giving up your Outlook, and you added Box to it to get this cloud, stuff going. And then if you're like this, like, hey, free-for-all, bottom-up IT, it's like, oh, yeah, use Dropbox, use Google Docs. We don't care what you use. You figure it out. And buying Mailbox is the first application suite. And then you saw them do photo stuff. So, basically what's going to I predict is going to happen. Evernote's too far gone, right? But I could absolutely see Dropbox now with their whatever their valuation is, $5-10 billion. I don't know if anybody knows what the last one was. But this is something that where Dropbox could start buying companies, and they could go public, and then they have a really, because Apple seems to not want to buy apps, which I find really stupid, because Apple's apps suck so bad. Now, if Dropbox buys the best app on the App Store for each vertical, whatever the note-taking app, that's great, or whatever's the great messaging app, and Apple refuses to buy apps, and Google refuses to buy apps, because, and Amazon and Microsoft refuse to buy apps because they see apps as like the marketplace, and they don't want to place a bet on any one horse. They want to have an open marketplace. Man, Dropbox could come in and just buy 10 of the best of breed, have them authenticate with your Dropbox login, and they could start on third base with this, like being, maybe the best
Sure.
way to authenticate.
But the issue with that, Jason, is that then that's you're screwing up your developer community. What happens to the apps that built in your platform that you didn't buy? The number 2 and number 3 note-taking app. Right?
Yeah, but
the reason why Apple doesn't want to do this is that you can poison the well, which is go ahead.
It's a fair point, Dalton, but they don't have a well yet. Dropbox doesn't have a well. They already made a bet on Mailbox, right? So if you're a mail client, are you not going to use Dropbox authentication and lose those 175 million people because you want to just make a point that, well, we're making our own mail client and we don't want to support Dropbox because they own Mailbox? No, you can't say no to having those 175 million people log in, right? I think.
It really depends. I mean, if you're talking about a 1 or 2 person developer, it depends on what their mentality is versus a larger company.
Yeah.
But I do think that move is going to change how all the mail clients think about this stuff, right? It's the fact that they bought Mailbox is going to really, it says a lot versus them just launching the API without having bought Mailbox.
Yeah. It's almost like they're pursuing both strategies concurrently, which I think actually is kind of smart because they're in such a dangerous position right now, Dropbox, of being like, I don't think they lose their base. I think that would be like a slow attrition, like AOL slow attrition, but they need to keep coming out with reasons to keep that account. Sure. Like I'm looking at my account right now and saying, I looked at my account, it's like up for renewal. Maybe I'll downgrade it. Maybe I'll get those files out of there and put them on Google Drive because I feel like now I have 2 drives. My Google Drive is becoming my primary. Everything's on jason@inside.com. Like, what am I doing here with the second one? And I don't really open my Dropbox anymore, and I still have stuff in there. So I'm almost like ready to clean it out and cancel my account. I feel terrible saying that because Drew's a friend, and I like it, but I'm also like, why am I maintaining 2 file systems?
No, it's annoying. I was actually going to point out that Mailbox, which I know you've started using.
Love Mailbox.
Right.
Getting better.
So one of the things that Dropbox is rolling out is the ability for Mailbox to send attachments. And so the Gmail app doesn't do that as well as the Mailbox app does. And so that's also where that's going, right?
Yeah.
It's
interesting. All right, next story.
It also must be so that they can see the app developer's perspective on how to integrate the cloud into their app seamlessly, because that's the big play, is to be the standard that every app developer uses for their cloud.
And they don't own their cloud, right? They use EC2. Is that correct? Dropbox has never owned hard drive space. They just use EC2.
They've been doing huge data center installation the past 18 months or so. So they've been switching over. I believe it's predominantly still Amazon Web Services, but they do have their own hardware and they've been moving it over time.
Why do you think they're doing that, Dalton? Is that because margins are getting killed?
Yeah.
By using
Well, it's
EC2?
just better. Like EC2 is great for getting off the ground. And actually S3 is a storage component on EC2.
Oh, sorry.
Anyway,
S3. You're right.
But it's great for getting off the ground. And my understanding is just, if you're sufficiently capitalized as a business and you have sufficient revenue, you can dramatically improve your margins by running it on your own hardware if you can predict all this stuff out.
And that was the other big story this week. I don't know if we have it here, but EC2, which is the computing arm of Amazon Web Services, Cloud Services, and S3 is the storage, correct, Dalton? They dropped dedicated servers by 80%. Did you read that, Dalton?
Yeah, they've been consistently, aggressively dropping their prices, and just like all of Amazon's philosophy, where they like to be sometimes upside down on margins, right? That's the whole Bezos thing from the get-go.
Yeah.
They're doing that with cloud computing, right? So it's really hard, I think, for folks to compete with them. But that was a big move, and they've done that. They keep dropping the prices on all this stuff consistently.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that. And that's for the dedicated servers. Like, so you can fire up an EC2 instance. That's one thing. Like, you use a little bit of cloud computing, you run some tasks, and then you shut it down. This is for when you have a dedicated server there. And that's always been the complaint. Like, every time I've talked to people, they're like, yeah, we can't move the Mahalo servers over there because it's too expensive. And now it's like, oh, well, now maybe it's getting so
$2 per hour instead of $10 per hour.
So $50 a day for a server, which is $1,500 a month, which sounds to me like rack space. Is that right, Dalton?
I don't know the Rackspace pricing off the top of my head,
Yeah.
but I imagine this move just undercut everybody would be my guess. And it was very intentional, right? That's the Amazon style, is they always want to win on price.
See, that's why Microsoft needs to take a page out of this Amazon book. I was just looking at the Windows phones are just getting better and better, but there's so much
Nice.
competition. So why don't they just They should just buy Nokia, which makes, I don't know if you guys have held the Nokia Lumina phones. I have one upstairs, and they keep getting better. Carl Zeiss list of gorgeous devices. If they made those devices free with a contract, which means they basically take out all their margin instead of I think they probably cost they sell them for $600 with a 100% markup, so the actual cost is $200 or $300. But if they just made them free and they lost, a couple of $100 million a year,
Which they can afford to do.
or a couple of $1 billion a year, getting more of these Windows phones out there, God, I think kids would rush to them, because I'm seeing a lot of people now on the lower end of the market, kids, and just the guy who does the pool and the gardening. This is a really interesting. I mean, I don't mean to be an elitist here, but when you see the gardener, who the guy who runs the gardening company, move from a flip clamshell to an Android smartphone or a Windows phone, I saw that both. The pool guy had a Windows phone and the gardener guy had an Android, really cheap, the lowest
Right.
end of the phones. But they're going to smartphones. The smartphone revolution is now in the hands
Yep.
of manual laborers cleaning pools in Los Angeles, or cutting hedges. This is a turning point, and Microsoft's got to get in there and just lower the price of this stuff.
Well, they finally lowered the price of the tablet, the Surface.
Yeah,
So
I'm concerned about the Surface. You really haven't heard anything about it. And now, okay, this is a good thing. Let's go to the Microsoft reorg. What the hell's going on over there? Because haven't they had a tremendous stock run up, and they've been really profitable?
The stock has done pretty well, yeah.
So this is something that Steve Ballmer had hinted at last fall, that they were going to reorganize. They are now getting rid of their business units, and they're organizing around functions. So rather than the Windows business unit and things like that, you now have engineering, which includes a whole bunch of different areas, marketing, business development and evangelism, advanced strategy and research, finance, HR, legal, and a COO. So all those units that used to be separate, and all those functions come under one function area. As part of this, they've also eliminated all the company's president titles. They're all now executive VPs. They're requiring more collaboration across the divisions. So do you think this will actually make Microsoft more agile, responsive, the things it needs to be?
Who the hell knows? I couldn't understand this. And I mean, I read it, and it was we're going to focus on making great products. And I'm well, okay, that's interesting, but that's just, a platitude. I don't understand how these big companies, when they restructure like this, exactly,
Well, they were always very siloed. So the
Yeah.
people in the Windows division don't talk to the people in the Xbox division, right?
Right.
Because they've all got their own HR, legal, whatever, finance.
The problem is you need to have a God King, like Steve Jobs or Drew or Larry Page and Sergey. You need to have a God King in these kind of technology companies who can say okay, Office is doing this, and Outlook and Xbox and Zune and this. Okay, here's the visionary. I got everybody's. Thank you for all the feedback, everybody. Here's what we're going to do. Great feedback, everybody. There's 3 different ways we can get, to cross that chasm, and here's the route we're going to take. Does anybody have any? Go ahead.
Have you been reading this blog, Strategery? That's really the name of it.
No.
Recently? So he's this really great analyst. He used to work at Apple for years, and then he worked at Microsoft for years. And he's just been, every blog post he's been writing has been a hit recently. And he just put up a post today about exactly this reorg and why it's a terrible idea. And it's from someone that just, until a few weeks ago, was working at Microsoft in a fairly senior role. So I won't just rehash and repeat what the guy had to say, but he really got down and drilled deep about the difference between a matrix org chart versus a functional one, and just why this was the stupidest idea ever. And it's from someone that worked at Microsoft until a few weeks ago. So
What is the blog? Strategery? I'm trying to find it here.
If you Google for, it's STRATCHERY. It should be the first hit.
Wait, say again.
STRATCHERY.
Ah, got it.
Ben
you find it?
Thompson.
Ben Thompson?
Yeah, that's the guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's been blogging a lot the past 3 or 4 months. He's definitely made it to my must-read list. He's pretty good.
Interesting. We'll definitely check that out. Okay.
Well, as part of this, in this, we can eventually segue into the Zynga stuff, but, there's always sort of winners and losers. And in this particular case, there's a woman who is running or co-leading the Windows division. And she's basically going to become the new Don Matrick now that he's gone. And she was on stage at a Wired event a couple months ago. And, there's no clear succession, right? From this reorg, you can't really tell if Steve Ballmer's anointed somebody to fill his shoes when he steps down as CEO.
Right.
But so somebody in the audience did ask her,
Oh, really?
yeah. So can
Julie
Julie
Larson Green is considered the heir.
Well, there's some people speculating that she could be. So I have this clip.
Who wrote that? Did Kara write that?
That was, I think, also in
51
ZNet's-
years old, started at Microsoft 20 years ago, highest ranking female engineering executive. Oh, and we have a video. Let's cut to the video.
All right. So if you can.
Oh, you're going to do it on your computer?
Yep.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, it says here in Wired, the rise of Julie Green, the heir apparent at Microsoft.
Yeah.
Wired magazine.
Right. So this is her.
Steve does retire and Windows continues to be successful. Would you want to be CEO one day?
Oh, man. Let's see. I went to Cheryl's book signing in San Francisco, and I've read her book, and I think she has a lot of really interesting things to say in there. I wouldn't rule it out, but I'm not, in a hurry for anything like that. I'm actually not, I'm new into my current role, so give me a year and then ask me again.
This is interesting, though, because you want people to have best-of-breed products, right? So you're like, okay, we have an Xbox division that's kicking ass. We have a Windows division that's, I wouldn't say kicking ass, but they did get this product, Windows 8, out, and it's pretty well done, actually. You have the Surface come out, and that's pretty well done, too. And they have the new Xbox come out, which people think is pretty extraordinary, and the buzz has been amazing. They have the share price going up. And so now they're reorging and saying, we're not going to have division heads and presidents and best-of-breed excellence on a product basis. We're going to have an engineering group. And engineering is going to engineer all Microsoft products?
Well, within
And then-
engineering, you have a bunch of different heads, right? So it's not just one engineering head. You still have within their operating systems, apps and services, cloud and enterprise.
Right, but
device and
marketing will
studio.
run across all
Yes.
things. So now you're not going to have like a marketing person at Xbox and Bing and
Right.
Surface. It's going to be one marketing person?
One marketing division. So the marketing people from all those products are working together theoretically.
Here's my theory on all this. I think that the best management theory is to shake shit up. Is
There
to
you
shake,
go.
shake stuff up on a regular basis.
Yep.
Because it keeps everybody on their toes. And if people feel complacent, like, oh, we're into like a thing, a lot of times, put that over here, I got $10 on account, I think people will, it gives them fresh eyes on the business, like, hey, we're reorging this stuff, you're going to be responsible for this, or now we're going to go this way, you're going to, be responsible across all products. What that does is it gets people like re-energized, and so I think a lot of these times they do these reorgs, it's to just reset culture and get people, sort of
Well,
re-jazzed up. And then also, it gives you a chance to move out dead weight and just say, well, it was the reorg. We reorged, and, we had to redo it this way. And so you three people who've been here for 30 years, you have no more power, right? Remember Larry Page reorged everything? He's like, yeah, Marissa, you go sit in this corner.
Right.
I don't think he would have, just demoted her. It was like, well, we had to reorg, and I'm going to have 6 people report to me directly, and I don't need 8 or 12. It's unrealistic for me to have 12. So I'm sorry, you didn't make the cut.
Well, and they've been talking about one Microsoft for a while, so that's what this is also.
If they want to do one Microsoft, they got to get their branding, because it's Microsoft, Windows 8, Xbox. It's just too many brands now, too. Too many names. I think they got to just drop the Microsoft name and just go with one, like Windows or something. I don't know.
What was it that you wanted to call the Microsoft phone? You wanted to call it
X-phone.
The X phone, right?
That would have been pretty dope.
Yep.
All right, let me just tell you about New Relic. They do web and mobile app performance monitoring. We use it here. It's amazing. You get real. I probably have some screenshots of it here. Dalton, you use New Relic at all for your web monitoring?
No, we don't.
All right.
But I am definitely familiar with the product. It's primarily Ruby guys, right? But yeah, it's pretty cool. I've heard of it.
I know it's got a big following in the Ruby community, and you can check your browser page load times, and you can see all of your app and how it's performing, and then you can actually look at your server resources, and you'll know, like, hey, this is the I/O, this is the physical memory, the network level, the disk utilization, all that kind of stuff. They have 40,000 customers, including Skullcandy, Spotify, Nike, Zillow, and Vonage. you can't really run a startup without it, and it's really affordable. And I get all these great emails telling me like, hey, look at the launch ticker. I guess this is for the launch ticker. Was up 99.79%, and we had 14,000 views that week, and the page load time was 5 seconds, which is ridiculous. But we have a lot of big images on it. That's like the full page load time, and I can start to really see like what is slowing down our app, which part of our service is slowing it down. And speed is the best feature you could have for any service. Look at that. Now it's over 50,000 customers. They just updated their website. Shopify, 99 Designs, Mashable, Zendesk, Groupon, 37 Signals, Nike, Petco. These guys are tearing it up over there. And you can get a free This Week in Startups t-shirt if you just go to newrelic.com/twist. Newrelic.com/twist. Sign up and get a free t-shirt. It's super fast, super easy, and no credit card is required. So just go there and sign up. newrelic.com/twist and get that t-shirt, which is made by one of our fans. This Week in Startups t-shirt. Very good. I love it. Thank you at New Relic, and go ahead and thank at New Relic for sponsoring This Week in Startups. Let's talk about this.
Want to talk about Don Matrick at
Sure.
Zynga?
Okay, we'll talk Zynga.
All right, so
This is shocking.
This was shocking. You've known Mark
Shocking.
a long time.
Yeah.
You know, I think you were fairly surprised that he was willing to step back.
Shocked.
Now, Don was the president of Microsoft's Xbox division. He's a serial entrepreneur himself. He sold his game company back in 1991 to Electronic Arts. He grew Xbox from 6 million to 50 million players over the last 6 years.
Not bad.
Not bad. Now, Zynga, as we know, was struggling to grow in mobile. There are a lot of issues around, people not being so interested in the new games. They're, clearly had some issues with staff leaving, some executive departures, stock price, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. The whole
So-
staff turned over,
Right.
basically.
Right. And so
All senior management seems to have turned over.
So when this came out, Mark said, I had always said if I found the right person, I'd be willing to hand it over. Now he's
Right.
going to stay as chief product officer, and you'll have Don doing the sort of the stuff that supposedly Mark doesn't really like doing all that
Right.
much. And then what's interesting is this week it came out that Don talked with Mark back in 2010 about Microsoft acquiring Zynga because they wanted to add social games to the Xbox. This
Of
was
course.
back when Zynga was really hot and
course.
everyone was playing Farmville and all those sort of things.
Yeah.
So I guess, are you surprised that Mark stepped back and is Don the right guy to run Zynga?
I am surprised, very much surprised, that he stepped back. That being said, it does seem like an incredibly savvy move because he controls the board, right? Like they couldn't have removed him. All those.
Right. They couldn't have done this without Mark saying, I want this person
Right.
here.
So if you know that he can't, he has to approve it, then this makes it sort of interesting. I think this could be a masterstroke for him. The company obviously cratered in terms of public perception, the stock price. It got way ahead of itself, and a lot of bad just vibe around the company.
Right.
And there were like one or two mistakes I think Mark made with like when he had people who weren't performing, and he's like, "Oh, I'll just adjust your stock plan," right? Like that was just like something that's really never been done in Silicon Valley. Dalton, I don't know how you felt about that one, where he was like, "Oh yeah, you had a 4-year plan. There's 2 years left. Instead of firing you, I'm just going to adjust it because you really didn't earn this."
I think he's admitted that that was a mistake.
Yeah.
I don't think that was that great.
But he had a massive dependency on Facebook.
Right.
And then mobile becomes just a juggernaut. The games on mobile are so much more compelling than the games on Facebook. Facebook just double-crossed him like 7 times. I mean, which I always said, you go into bed with, people can pull this out, from 4 years ago on the show. Like, if you go into bed with Zuckerberg, you don't wake up with your throat slit. I mean, it's pretty much a guarantee.
Well, being dependent on anybody's platform.
I know, but I mean, really, like, it's like getting into the cobra's nest. Like, he basically, you were able to post your Farmville stuff on the feed, and your people were able to see it. Then they took the games off the feed. They made people pay to put them in the feed. Then they said, "Oh, you can't have your own currency. You got to use our currency. That's a 30% tax. Now you got to advertise to get people to your game if you want them to see their friends' stuff." I mean, he just ground, I think, him down, and he didn't make the transition off of there enough. And it's the same thing with me with YouTube or Google
Sure.
SEO, right? And so now I am just like so tired of like the dependency on people. I've basically mapped out the entire like entrepreneurial, I'd have to write an editorial about this, of just how to avoid other people's ecosystems or use them while you siphon off value. Like how to siphon value off of Facebook, how to siphon off value from Twitter and YouTube before they screw you, right? Because they will screw you.
Not intentionally always.
No, almost always intentionally, actually. That's my feeling on it. Dalton, what do you think?
I mean, I don't want to make overgeneralizations, but yeah, like the social game, like on this topic we're talking about, it's pretty well precedented that social games have just completely been a train wreck, and all the companies that were built. I mean, Zynga was the best of the companies, right? They were the
Oh,
ones
yeah.
that got public. You know, like think about all the ones we've never heard of that we don't think about that cratered as well. So to take an entire large sector and basically blow it up, yeah, I think a lot of people lost a lot of money on that one, which is too bad for them, I suppose.
But the master stroke for him was he got public, he got all this cash, he still got a $2.7 billion, $2.8 billion market cap. He probably has $1 billion in cash. He gave this cat $50 million. This guy is just considered a god in the gaming space. He's got massive credibility. And I think this is like hiring Eric Schmidt in a way. Because it's Wall Street's gonna be like, okay, this is a serious person. Let's relook at the company. Let's re-examine the company. New people who want to go work there. Okay, let's re-examine the company. Mark, admits some mistakes. The company got dealt a bad hand, like he got 3 bad beats in a row, whatever. But it's still worth $3 billion. He still has $1 billion in cash. He's still got that huge building that he bought, and he's still got the ability to make great games. And it's going to be, they're going to basically move into mobile, and they're going to move into real world gambling.
Right.
And those two things, there'll still be a little bit of a overhang of hundreds of millions of dollars from the social gaming. That's not going to go away completely. So actually, I think they're set up for long-term success. And when they were at like $3, I bought 10,000 shares just as like a sign of confidence that Mark would do the right thing. And I have been now rewarded by Mark doing the right thing. The stock is up, 50 cents from when I bought it.
It's $3.50 was the close today.
I think
it's definitely been up since the announcement last week.
I believe Mark will figure this all out. He's like one of the most dynamic, intelligent people I've ever met in my career, and I think this is a masterstroke because it's basically like him saying like, this is a hugely humbling and humble move, I think, which is completely what you wouldn't expect from Mark. You expect Mark to be like leaning in and being like, "We're going to make this work. I'm going to make it work," and he's like, "No, I need help." That's a great thing when a leader like that says, "You know what? I need help. I admit I need help. I can't do this alone." So I'm actually I'm long. I'm bullish.
Right. So did you see what O'Malley wrote about this? He thinks it's wrong. The stock market likes the new Zynga CEO, but it's wrong. And the reason he says that is because the DNA of Zynga is all about short-term maximization and transactional and very, it's not very creative. And Don Matrick is known for being creative. And so if you put somebody who's one type of person into an organization that's totally different, unless he's able to change the culture, he's not going to be successful.
Sometimes you have to hit rock bottom in order to make change, right? You see that with people who are degenerate gamblers, people who are substance abusers, whatever. Sometimes things have to crater for people in order for there to be like a huge rebound like this. I think the things that made Zynga successful, copying games, this crazy, funnel and focus on conversion and money. And I think that stuff got them to where they are. But I think now Mark probably everybody realizes that's not the long sustainable thing. They need to have a creative arm that comes up with original IP that then can be leveraged in multiple media like Angry Birds has done or like Call of Duty or Halo, and I think that's what he's going to bring to it. So, I mean, I understand Ohm's point, like, hey, the culture is not that. I think all those people working there would prefer that culture. And so they're going to look at this person coming in and say, like, thank God, we've been saying this. We've been saying we want to do original stuff. Like, let's make our own Halo. Let's not just do Mafia Wars and copy, like, the 17 other Mafia Wars dynamic game or the next Farmville game. Like, they don't want to do all that sequel stuff. And now, if they can basically have this person come in and say, yeah, let's try a couple of highly creative, unique games that are wholly original.
So if you look at Facebook, and let's assume at some point that Mark Zuckerberg decides he needs to bring in a different CEO. It's probably not going to happen, but if it did, how likely is it that somebody's going to be able to change the Facebook culture? Like, do you think everybody...
I think somebody needs to come in and change that company.
But how... It's really, really hard when they've been doing everything a certain way for years.
Yeah, but what if the stock price gets cut in half? And that's a possibility for Facebook. Zuckerberg's track record right now, Dalton, what would you rate Zuckerberg's track record post-IPO in terms of on a product basis, very specifically?
I mean...
A, B, C, D, F.
It depends on what you're optimizing for. Like, they really have... Look, they got the bad medicine from the market that they need to get their revenue way up. And so everything they've been rolling out is hyper-focused on monetization, right?
Yep.
And so if you're the street, I actually think you'd probably, for the past 9 months, you'd probably be giving them like a B, or like a C plus, because they have listened and they've really aggressively been rolling. I don't know what your newsfeed looks like now, but like, man, they've been turning up the monetization engine like nobody's business.
Right. And what do you think that's going to do to customers?
Well, I mean, I think there's been data where people, again, like there's different sources of data on this, but it seems to have made the product less enjoyable to use, right?
Oh, that's clear anecdotally. Anybody who uses a product
So what I'm
is
saying is,
annoyed.
if you're asking me to rate them, if you're on the market, if you're looking at the stock price, I can see why the stock price stabilizes, has been uptrending. It's because they actually listened to what the street said, where a year ago or two, before they went out, they were like, oh yeah, who cares about monetization? That doesn't matter. They completely changed their tune, right?
Absolutely
correct.
correct.
Market looks for in a leader is someone that's willing to listen to their large institutional investors. So this is why I don't think there's like, depends on who you are to give to say whether they've been doing a good job or not, right?
On a consumer basis, D. Best case, D. Poke and absolute embarrassment. To steal.
Instagram video has stayed, they've stayed aggressive, right? Like they really have been
All right.
putting the moves on it.
Well, let's do it. Okay, what do you rate Poke? A Poke, A, B, C, D,
I mean,
F.
that one was an F. I mean,
F
they
minus.
distanced themselves from that. Yeah,
Correct, Dalton. Correct, it's an F. All right. Now, Dalton, we'll go through it. The screensaver on Android, what was that called? On or something?
Home.
Facebook
Home. Okay. A, B, C, D, E, F. Home. Say what you think.
They screwed their partner on that one because remember Samsung was supposed to have an exclusive on that?
Yep.
And they actually just released it in the Play Store at the same time, and so they had to kill the phone. Yeah, that one wasn't that good.
Yeah, so you would say?
D at best. I mean, they're still revving it, right?
All right,
So that's
so
the only
that's-
reason I would give an F, is they haven't given up. Whereas Poke, they gave up on it. It's dead. Right?
Yeah.
So
D minus. I give it an F.
yeah,
Nobody
it
care.
wasn't-
Anybody here using it?
Nope.
Anybody
I'd
ever?
have to look at the stats. Maybe
Anybody ever tell you they love it? No. It's an F. D is Dalton being graceful, and I appreciate that. What other nonsense have they done recently?
The chat heads.
Chat heads, F. It's innovative. Like I think that actually that mobile stuff was incredibly innovative, but poorly executed, right? So I do think it was one of the more innovative things they've done, perhaps the most innovative thing they've done. It was kind of original, the chat heads across. That's an F.
their apps are getting better. The iOS app is faster, right? They really
All
did
right.
improve the app.
So, okay,
Right?
B.
Okay,
B for speed
yeah,
improvements. That's fine.
Right?
Okay. And then Instagram adding video. I don't think it. Maybe it's a B. You know, like I don't know. What do you think the Instagram video is? A B? On a product basis.
Well, I just think it was a fantastic defensive move against Vine, where they
true.
completely got one of their largest competitors caught in a sand trap, and they're screwed. Like, Twitter committed way too much to Vine, right? They can't just quietly be like, oh, that was just an experiment. We were just kidding about that. Who cares?
Right.
So, like, uh-oh. Like, they took a weaker competitor and got them caught on a very public... Yeah, like, I don't know. From a defensive perspective, I think Instagram video was brilliantly executed.
Yeah, I do think it was pretty well done. I have to say.
And they finally made Instagram photos and videos embeddable this week.
Oh yeah.
Jesus,
Oh,
what took so long?
That took a long time too. Yeah. So anyway, the point is, what they've become really good at Facebook is putting more ads. And the ads are incredibly
Ridiculous.
deceptive.
Ugh.
They're so deceptive. You have no idea what's an ad anymore. The FTC should come down on Facebook like a bag of bricks. If somebody is in the is it the FTC who regulates this stuff or the
Yes.
FTC? FTC,
FTC.
right? For covert advertising?
Trade Commission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please send this message to the FTC. This is the chairman of the interwebs, Jason Calacanis, FTC. The absolute elected chairman for my fourth term. It's a 4-year term, Tyler. It's been 16 years. I've been, but I've said, I've already made it clear I'm only going to do 7 terms.
Was there a recount?
There's never been a recount. I deleted all the votes. Anyway, there's a message from the chairman of the to the FTC. Please get 1,000 bricks and drop them on Facebook headquarters about their covert advertising. It absolutely is ridiculous that you cannot tell what's an ad. It's like this tiny little gray sponsored box. I see it. It's like Tyler likes Intuit's, QuickBooks. I don't mean to beat up on Intuit QuickBooks. I'm like, I don't think Tyler actually likes that. And it's like he liked it like in 2007 or something because he was like testing the like button. And now I'm like using Tyler like on QuickBooks. And it's the first thing I see when I open the app.
Yeah, it's pretty cheesy.
Horrific. Facebook has hit their peak, and they have no creativity left. They're not doing anything original. There's no original thinking in the company. Overall, the company gets a C-. And
But they have listened to Wall Street, like I said. So that's
Right.
for better or worse. That's
yeah,
that's
so great. They
what's going
stabilized the
on,
stock at $25, and then Zuckerberg is going to Korea, or where was he, in the Philippines, meeting with the president over there. He's obviously just totally disengaged. I mean, where is, and he's never really had any great ideas. All the people who used to work with him don't care about Facebook anymore. You know, if you talk to any alumni, they're all just like, you talk to anybody who's an alumni, and you say Zuckerberg, boom, they just will unload on him. It's a disaster. And all the people, like Chamath sold every share he had, and he tweeted it. I mean, that says something, right? Like he's
Yeah, no confidence.
zero confidence. That stock right now, it's at $26. 2 years from now, plus or minus 20%. That's it. It could be, actually, could very easily be half the price.
I was going to say, aren't you
And
lower?
maximum more it could be is 20% more. Anybody want to take action?
Nope.
Dalton, you want to take action?
No, I think you're probably right. I think their ad exchange could work, but that doesn't look like an explosive growth deal, right? Even
Nope.
if we buy, even if the ad exchange totally works, it's great. It'll keep it supported, but that's not 100x. That doesn't
They
dramatically.
should have bought Tumblr. They should just take this $70 billion, $100 billion market cap, whatever it is, and they should just buy every billion-dollar company, Pinterest, whatever. Just overpay for every single one and hope that they get another Instagram. Because I think Instagram is like, it's still growing and taking off. Like,
Yeah.
everybody who hates Facebook is like, I hate Facebook, I use Instagram. And you're like, it's the same company, right? And they're like, yeah, it is. Consumers don't even know Instagram is a Facebook company.
It's like one of those like craft beer companies getting sold to Anheuser-Busch or something. You don't know
Yeah,
that you're
exactly.
really drinking
Like,
Bud.
I would never drink Bud. I'm a whatever,
Sure.
man.
Well, and I should bring this up. Graph search rolled out to all U.S. English users this
Another
week.
terrible product.
So normally I wouldn't do this, but if you want to humor me, I have your rant about graph search that you did 6 months ago on the show.
Oh, really?
Yes.
All right, by all means, let's hear this rant.
All right, here we go.
What did I say about this? Here. So your friends are not going to, as I think, either.
Oh,
Whoop.
what happened?
There's going to be no network liquidity here. So your friends are not going to, as I think, either Doug or Eric were saying, going to go through and be like, these are all the plumbers I like. They're just not going to do it. Who's got the time to do that? Nobody does that. And by the way, nobody types Boolean type searches in. I'm looking for, my friends over 40 who I've been friends with for over a year, who like Chinese and I mean, these searches were so absurd that they were showing.
Well, movies my friends like isn't that weird.
Like you may ask your friends, like, anecdotally, what did you think of Argo? But how many times do you ask your friends what they like and they don't like the film that you liked? It's not a good judge. There are better systems and processes out there. This is such a terrible launch. What they launched was Match.com search from 10 years ago. I'm looking for males and females friends. It's dating search.
All right.
I think I'm right. I don't know. What do you think? Dalton, was I right 6 months ago? What do you think? Grade my handicapping.
People like being able to do creepy stuff. I mean, like, that's why they liked Match.com search circa 10 years ago, is you could be like, oh, well, who likes XYZ band? Or, I mean, it doesn't seem like something you would use on a day-to-day basis. But
Okay.
you could sit there and, like, have a lot of fun seeing who, like,
If you're a creepy person. So, Dalton,
really likes
how many
Insane
how
Clown
many of these
Posse,
have you done?
right?
So, Dalton, okay, you admit it's for creepy people. How many have you done?
I have personally done 0. They
Okay.
didn't turn it on for me, and I use Facebook about once a week, so I'm not the target demographic. But I've been passed around some funny links to graph searches that I find humorous. Where you do the intersection of like 4 or 5 different things of people that like that follow Jason Calacanis and that also like Insane Clown Posse and that also like
I have it. I
that
actually
stuff is always entertaining.
I have
just
it up
did-
on my screen.
I just did photos of my friends in New York City. Wow, that's super compelling. Yes, those are my friends in New York City. Who cares?
Right. I have on my screen, this was a Tumblr from January when they first announced it, Mothers of Jews Who Like Bacon.
Wait. Mothers
No, but this is a screenshot from last January. If you want to look at that.
Well, I can get mothers of Jews who like Launch Ticker. That might be
Yeah.
interesting.
And then there were married people who
Nobody.
like prostitutes.
Oh, that's interesting. Married.
And then this was a inside joke in the UK. Current employers of people who like racism, and they show the U.S. Air Force, Target, McDonald's, and so there's lots of things that people are going to find. Also, like married people who like Ashley Madison and things like that. And,
I wonder if I could find my friends who are in the closet.
God, I don't think you want to make that public, do you?
No, sorry, I don't have any friends who are in the closet. There we go. Well, that's it. I have 5,000 friends, none are in the closet. There you go. Tyler, sorry. You have an announcement to make?
No, I've not. Just.
Have you used this?
I've had it for about 6 months since February.
And you've used it how many times? Did you use it just to test it as a technologist? Is that the idea? Or you actually use it for something?
I think I've used it 3 legitimate times.
For what?
So, to find photos that people have tagged of me that I couldn't normally find. So I can see photos of Tyler Crowley, and then it shows all these photos I wasn't aware that got tagged. or whatever, yeah. And you can search for. I can search for photos of Jason Calacanis. It's good for subtly stalking people. You see other photos of them that other people have tagged or whatever.
I don't know. That's another terrible product they've launched. It's like their execution is terrible.
Well, this was interesting. So actually,
What have they done? I mean, they also did, and if you go back a little bit further, they did the Quora killer. How'd that
they were
work out?
supposed to have.
They did the Groupon killer. How'd that work out? They did the Gowalla Foursquare killer. How'd that work out? What have they done?
I think their Messenger, I think, is actually performing.
Messenger is
right?
amazing,
That's
yeah.
their WhatsApp killer.
What is that called?
Just Facebook
It's
Messenger.
Just
yeah,
Facebook
Facebook.
Messenger.
Yeah, I actually think that's been performing, right? Like, I don't think it gets
Yeah,
a
it
lot
does.
of press about it, but I think that was not, like, I think that's been performing.
And that's separate than the Facebook app. And that's just to
Which is
do
smart.
chat-like
Just
stuff.
chat. Yeah.
Right. No.
So, and like group messaging is a big market. So I think they're doing well. Like, I think that's, of all the ones you listed, you're absolutely right. And the only one I could point to is like, okay, well, that was a brand
Has
new
anybody
product
used
that they executed.
any of the 4 of us use it in the last year?
I don't think.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, people
It's
send,
my
I get
main.
messages that way.
I think Messenger is my main communication tool.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I get messages that way.
Oh, okay. I'm going to have to download it. I've never used it.
You can do it from the regular Facebook app. You don't have
Right.
to have Messenger to use it.
Yeah, I think that's what people do, hit me up from there, but I just don't load it that often. Dalton, if you were the CEO magically of Facebook and you could pursue 1 or 2 projects, let's say they bought app.net or whatever, they give you $1 billion. Anyway, you're working there and Zuck comes to you and says, here's $250 million. Here's $250 million. Go build something over the next 5 years. That leverages the social graph there. What would you build?
Jeez. Oh, man. I mean,
basically
so what's-
blank check to build something on top of the billion users.
I mean, what's hard about this is that all I think about in my job is infrastructure itself. And I think about what you could build on top of the infrastructure. And it's connecting all the stuff together, like what we were talking about earlier with Dropbox, that's interesting. Like the way data ties together, filtering tools, aggregator tools. It's not, oh, here's a new shiny toy that's a brand new app that you check out. It's actually, holy crap, do we have too much information and everything is disaggregated? How do we help people make sense of all the noise that they're trying to consume on a daily basis?
Yeah.
Cramming them full of ads is not it.
Oh, definitely
Right,
not.
so it's kind of like, but that's the issue, is it's diametrically opposed to what they're trying to do, like as a company,
Let me ask you this,
right?
Dalton.
So,
Keep going.
so those are the things that are most interesting to me, is dealing with noise management and
So making
data
the news
management.
feed better is what you would say.
Yeah,
Cleaning up
and-
that
and-
feed experience.
Yeah, and maybe it's even not a feed UI, but just thinking about digital overload that we're subjecting all these people to. I think that's a really interesting topic that.
All right, Tyler, you have
Yeah, we're gonna see
$250 million. What would you do? What product would you launch on top of that? And Karen, you're next. And if you guys all come up with donuts, I'm going to the superfan.
Oh.
I got a superfan here. If you guys can't come up with anything,
Here's the interesting
Jesus.
thing. The thing when I think of
Superfan, be
Facebook,
careful, you might be up next.
I think you have to think of Google Plus. And what is Google Plus doing to make ground against Facebook? Right?
Oh,
And
I know the number 1 feature of Google Plus.
Hangouts.
Hangouts. Amazing.
And Facebook.
How many people have used a Hangout in the last 30 days?
I have.
I have.
I haven't.
Dalton, have you used a Hangout? in the
But I
last-
use
Not in the past
but I use
30 days, but I have before.
Yeah.
I use Google Voice calling as my main way to call, and that's now part of Google Hangouts.
Yeah.
They just made it this week. So
Hangouts is extraordinary.
I will have to use it now
Yeah.
going forward. But
I think
the interesting thing is Facebook had that before Google did. I mean, with the video chat, not to the same way,
Yeah.
but
That would be a great one for Facebook to do.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if they did a Google Plus competitor? Boy, would that be compelling.
and Google has just recently in Google Plus really started to mimic the Facebook Messenger functionality.
Yes, they have. Like the Meebo-like, the
Yes,
bar kind of
that's right.
thing. Yeah. Interesting. What do you think about that, Dalton?
I think Google Plus is 100% about SEO. Like the distribution strategy and the long term why they bet on Google Plus is that if every organic search in Google crams you in to Google Plus, then that is hundreds of millions of users, right? If they can get every publisher to claim their Google Plus page, I think that I think it's not a product they're not trying to win by product, right? The products are just check the box. Like it's really about strangling Facebook via the fact that Google search still has an effective monopoly. And so that's what I'm watching really closely is how they're leveraging that.
It's interesting because now if you want to get ranked really well, you have to put an author tag to the Google Plus for your story. So if you're Ehau, right, or Mahalo previously, like if your page says like Kieran Collier wrote this, Tyler Crowley wrote this, Dalton wrote this, and your photo's there, you see that in search now, like, or Kara Swisher wrote it, and it's a link to her Google Plus page. It's like this idea of authority, and it's almost like they've remade the web and said, these are the authors. And if you don't have an author tag on it, why would we even put you on the first page?
Right. Well, this was already something like a decade ago. People were talking about, the internet needed more trust.
Yeah. It's
So,
their way of,
yeah.
Facebookifying search. Like, if we don't know the author of this page, why would we put them in here?
Right. Who is this person who wrote this?
Right. Interesting. So, Karen, if you had the blank check, what would you build?
You know,
Google Plus is a great suggestion, I think. The Hangouts.
the Hangouts. Everybody loves looking at photos on Facebook.
Yep.
And I would build a better photos experience. I don't know that they do that particularly well. I mean, you can go look
That's a
at your
good one.
own very well.
You mean
but-
like a Flickr or
yeah,
like
more
an
like
iPhoto?
A Flickr, yeah.
Or like a 500
just
pixel?
just a beautiful way to look at photos and be able to reorganize them and be able to print them and the only reason I go to Facebook is for photos and videos of my nephew, and I could look at those all day long.
Ah, interesting. Okay, Masim Farid, what do you think? Masim is your name? Masim.
Well, I mean, I would definitely.
You're a
invest in-
super fan.
Yes, I am.
And how many episodes have you watched of this program?
Uncountable, maybe hundreds.
Hundreds, literally hundreds.
This is episode 368, just
Yes,
so you
that's
know.
hundreds.
Yes.
So you have a favorite episode? Favorite guest?
Recent one, Matt Mullenweg.
What did you like about that?
I just loved how humble he was, but you still dragged out of so much information out of him that he
Yeah.
might have not shared unless you were approaching him in the manner you did. But he gave a lot of information, ended up 2 interviews, so that was
It wound up being a
impressive.
two-parter. He's definitely on the all-star team now.
Definitely.
For that. And hundreds of episodes, huh?
Mhm.
Okay,
And I
so
just
now-
recently started about less than 7 months ago when I fully dedicated into my company, my work. Heard about you and focused it, and then
good.
got a lot of information.
All right. Well, if you don't know, super fans are allowed to sit in the corner sometimes and watch the show. If they're not too creepy. Which you barely made the cut.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The orange socks. Look, you see this, Tyler? The orange socks and got the tie pin.
Hey, it's European.
I like it. I
right.
like this look.
Thank you, I
Seriously,
appreciate
they
it.
had the little, what do they call that? Cravat or what are they?
Pocket square.
Pocket square, huh?
Yep.
Look at you.
You gotta get one of
Caller,
those,
shot
Jason.
caller.
Okay.
I like. He wears a blazer to the. Okay, Zuckerberg gives you. This is your one chance at fame. Zuckerberg gives you $250 million to build a product inside Facebook. What is it?
It would be my company, but other than that, if we're talking
All right,
about
that's a good answer.
Facebook,
What is it?
Well, Chinese Enterprises, we're looking to develop 2 different platforms. One focusing on high-end fashion and sneakerhead culture.
Okay.
I don't know if you're aware about that. And then a second platform
am.
that regulates basically everything that goes on in that website. Similar.
So
to
basically,
what you get paid
Zuckerberg
on.
gives you $250,000 and you tell him I want to sell high tops on Facebook.
Nope, it's totally different. We're focused on the secondary market, not on the initial market,
Got it.
which is the booming market. It's
Yeah, no, I saw that on Entourage. Yeah, the turtle was always buying the crazy sneakers and lining up.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of freaks. So how many freaks are there out here buying these high tops?
well,
What are they
you,
paying for them?
you can call them freaks. I call them sneakerheads because I'm personally one myself.
No, I know, but how many sneakers do you own?
Well, I at one point owned 120, but I've been selling them to invest in my business because they do
You
increase
had
in value.
120 pairs of high
Yep.
tops,
At one, well, not high tops, all
all different
varieties.
sneakers.
Yep, from
And when you started putting them in your mom's closet, what did she? How did?
well, when I first started, parents were a little upset, but when they saw the income coming
I'm
in
just
from
saying,
what
like,
I
your
did,
mom sees you have 80 pairs of shoes. Is she just like really concerned about you and sends you to the therapist?
she wasn't concerned. It was just a matter of me just buying, selling, and trading
What's
it.
the most expensive you sold one of these shoes for?
sold. The most expensive I've showed a pair for is $800, and I only bought it for $150.
$800 used sneakers to some dope who bought your Patrick Ewing sneakers?
Well, they were actually Kobe Bryant's. What the Kobe's?
What the Kobe's? What year was that?
They just came out actually 2 years ago.
Were these? Had you worn these?
No, not these pairs. I did not
So
wear
these were unworn.
These
These
were
were
more so a
investments.
collector's item.
I feel like I'm talking to one of those guys who like, I have 50 guns and like my gun collect. There's like the guy who's the nutcase from Dalton on that who does InfoWars. You know the guy who's been on CNN. You know the guy, Alex.
The
Alex.
conspiracy theory guy.
Yeah, I've only read blogs talking about how he's crazy. I've never actually watched.
Oh, you gotta see him on like CNN or something. He's like crazy, like, and they're trying to cut him off, and he's like, the world will know. It's like a madman on the street. But he's like, I heard some interview with him where it's like, well, my greatest investment. He uses his voice like this. My greatest and if the info of the CIA is actually this is a false flag, but my gun collection is now I have what was that one called? The one that was tragically used in the school shooting that everybody's crazy about. This one AR-15. I have my AR-15. I have 4 AR-15s. I bought them for $1,500. They're worth $400 or $500 right now. My greatest, since the stock market is all a scam by the CIA and it's a false flag if you're buying Google. But if you had the AR-15s, you would have been up 400%. And I'm like, wow. This is what it's coming to, huh? Okay, last story. Dalton's got to get back to work on app.net. Let's
All
do the last story.
right. So I think it's fun to talk about the UK.
Are they going to go NSA on this?
No. I thought something sort of hopeful.
Oh, hopeful. Okay.
So UK is overhauling its national curriculum, and they're proposing that they will prioritize coding skills. And there's also
I did see that. And 3D printers?
3D printers is not explicitly in the document, but source within the government said that that's something that they would be doing. They'd make them standard in schools. So the idea is that
So not math, but coding.
coding. So
They're swapping out math for coding?
no, not swapping it out. This is about
Should. I mean, who's uses trigonometry?
well, this was about so kids rather than learning word processing will be taught how to write and test computer programs.
Of course, they know word processing coming in.
Right, they've been on
Wait,
those
you're
devices
telling
all
me
life.
that in school, they're like, hey, kids, would you like to learn how to do word processing? Well, the kids must laugh. If you've completed Angry Birds, I mean, completing Microsoft Word is kind of easy.
So they're also going to be teaching kids to keep their information private and how to handle
Ah.
themselves online. So it's not just
good
the
luck with
coding
that.
skills.
Okay.
Now, this is still
Okay, here's
not
how to take a
finalized.
selfie. And if you'd like to take a selfie, you take out everybody in class, take out your Snapchat. Now, you don't want to expose your complete genitalia. You want to just do this from a certain angle so it's not considered child pornography when you take a picture of your junk. I mean, really, they're going to teach them how to do their privacy? They're going to teach them how to use Snapchat? Can you imagine?
How to protect yourself online, also like stranger danger kind of stuff,
Oh, I
right?
see, I see.
Yeah. So this would take effect September of 2014. Now, the Prime Minister David Cameron said, as a parent, this is exactly the kind of thing I want my children to be learning. As Prime Minister, I know this revolution in education is critical for Britain's prosperity in the decades to come.
Of course.
So
Brilliant.
do you think the U.S. in some way should follow suit? What would the world be like if everyone could code?
I don't know. Dalton, what do you think?
I mean, look, I've read blog posts on both sides of this in the past where like there's the solutionists that think that if everyone knew how to program, it would fix all the problems and there'd be jobs for everyone. And I don't necessarily think that's realistic or the case, but understanding how a computer works is very, very handy, right? There's a lot of just taking an introductory level computer science course. Just knowing now, what a program is, how it works, how to write a basic program, even if you never use that in your job, it just makes it easier for you to understand what the heck's going on with computers. So, I remember we had Lego Logo when I was in middle school. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I didn't have that, but yes.
It was pretty cool, right?
We had Pascal in BASIC.
Exactly, yeah.
And Fortran.
So with Lego Logo, you would write, it was basically, I think it was effectively Fortran. Or BASIC or something like that, and you could make the Legos move. Like you would program these little robots, and they were you build them out of Legos. And in school, I remember that was my first introduction to programming, and that was actually pretty cool, right? And so I could see how introducing basic programming things in the curriculum can make people more computer literate, but thinking that, oh, wow, now everyone's going to have great engineering jobs and they're set up for the future economy. Yeah, I don't think that's realistic.
Dalton's right. It's not a panacea. You're not going to get everybody has a job all of a sudden. But
Change the way people think.
yes, and here's the
which
thing.
is great.
That's the great part about it. It's going to make people more disciplined, and the ability to focus, exactly. And there are going to be a large number of software jobs available. And it's completely conceivable that in 30 years, the ability to write code will be considered like the ability to use Microsoft Office was 10 years ago. Like, you couldn't get a job in the 90s if you didn't know how to use Microsoft Office, right? Remember on our resumes, you would put, like, how many of us put on our resumes? Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint,
Excel.
and it'd be like Excel, and then you put in brackets medium or intermediate, right? You had to they're like, well, do you know how to do mail merge? Well, do you know how to do we actually had to qualify ourselves during interviews. And now it's just like, well, if you come to this job and you don't know how to use those programs proficiently, then you're an idiot. Because you can figure it out online in 10 seconds. There's a help button remember Clippy? Like, oh, your peers, you're trying to do a mail merge. Like, can I help you? Like, that's actually what could be very interesting is you're going to come into your boss, and your boss will be like, listen, can you do me a favor? Can you compare these two data tables and then figure out the correlation between these two data sets for me, and then pull this data set, and I want you to hit the API over here at the government, and then hit the YouTube API. Like, it's completely possible that could be a discussion with a secretary or an executive assistant 20 or 30 years from now.
Maybe a year ago or 9 months ago, I remember Neil Dash wrote a pretty good post about this topic, and he compared it to kind of like blue-collar programming jobs, right? Like, remember when electricity first came out? Thomas Edison, you had to be like a scientist to know how to do light bulbs and whatnot.
Yep.
And then now, being an electrician is a trade. The same with plumbing. Plumbing was like awesome, crazy, modern science, and now we would consider that a trade job.
Right.
And so there'll be a whole variety of IT-related jobs that will turn into something analogous to being an electrician or being a plumber that are awesome, cool, respectable jobs, but it's not the same as going and getting like a PhD in computer science. It's much more like a trade.
You're in the Bay Area, right? Or you're in San Francisco,
Yeah, that's correct.
you're in San Francisco, not the Valley.
That's correct.
I was talking to somebody about jobs, right? And this sort of like jobs are over and they're going away. And I had this sort of epiphany, and if you look at San Francisco, I'm talking about San Francisco specifically, the affluence of the upper class there is getting so great that they are taking private drivers everywhere, Lyft, Sidecar, Uber, et cetera, and they're having food delivered to them anywhere they are. And I started looking at the price they're paying to do this. People in San Francisco are spending $15 to go to work in an Uber or in a thing. They're spending $15 to come home. They're spending an extra $5 or $6 per meal to have it delivered. They're probably spending $50, $100 a day on these like automatic services and this kind of stuff. And so I was talking to a Lyft driver. I took Lyft for competitive purposes to sort of understand like how it compares to Uber. And the guy had come from Atlanta. He had a college degree. He was a journalist, and but couldn't get a journalism job. And he's Lyft. I said, "Hey, you mind me asking how much you're making and why you chose to do this?" He's like, "I had a friend here." And he said, San Francisco's a great place to like party, and there's like tons of great stuff. It's a 22-year-old, 23-year-old. And he told me Lyft is looking for drivers because he knew somebody who's a Lyft driver. And you can make $30 an hour. I said, so on a Friday or Saturday night, you're making like $200 or something? I said, oh, I'm making $300. I'm working 10 hours. I said, how many days a week you work? He's like, 3 or 4. I was like, what do you do the other 4 days a week? He's like, I work on music, I chill out, I hang out with my friends, And I was like, wow, there is going to, I actually had this like, I think what's going to be a peek into the future, which is people are going to do manual jobs to service the upper class that are basically incredibly high paying for what they are. So you have this like minimum wage, like, oh, we have to get the minimum wage down. Well, didn't driving cars and like delivering food used to be minimum wage jobs or exec or some of the other things? They're becoming $20 an hour jobs in San Francisco, $25 an hour jobs, right $35 an hour jobs.
Right now.
And I think that trend's going to continue because you have all this you have this upper class that's getting bigger and has more discretionary stuff. So college educated people are going to work 2 or 3 days a week doing what would be considered a menial task, but they're going to be overpaid for it.
Well,
does that make sense?
The question is, at what point does this become a commodity and the price starts to drop and it's not such a nice thing to do for $30 an hour anymore? It's going to be $10 an hour.
It might be, but there might be so much demand that, because look at the extra demand that's being created. The idea that people would pay extra or that upper middle class people or affluent people would pay to have their own driver every day is crazy. Right?
Not in other parts of the world.
Like
Like
where?
in Asia, right?
Right, like in Asia. But in Asia,
My family in
those-
India has a driver take them everywhere.
Right. So in Asia, you have people who have drivers, but those drivers are getting paid nothing. They have no quality of
Because
life.
labor's so cheap.
Now, it's almost like we're going to have this $30 an hour class of people doing manual labor for whatever it is, 30 hours a week and making $50,000 a year, working 3 days a week.
Because it's a great experience, right? That's the difference. That's why you get in an Uber instead of a cab.
Exactly. And so you're saying there'll be downward pressure on that. I don't know that there's going to be downward pressure on that margin, but it could be a.
But UberX already is putting the.
But those people are making 25 an hour still. I don't know, Dalton. What do you think of this sort of?
Look, man, I mean, I think trying to extrapolate anything from what's going on in San Francisco right now, it's so weird out here. Like, I kind of find the whole thing depressing, just like what's going on.
Well, tell us. What's weird? Like what?
Just the traffic and how crowded everything is and the prices, like it's effectively hyperinflation. If you look at the price of housing, like it's not, I don't know, like I tend to take a kind of negative, cynical view of all of these things. And so I would want to, so I'm not really sure what the implications of this are. And if we're going to talk about, minimum wage and things like that, I'd be much more interested to think about places outside of San Francisco.
Yeah.
How this would affect them, right? It's kind of like Foursquare we were talking about earlier. It's like, it all makes sense in New York, but if you're not in New York, it's still, I would argue, it still doesn't make a ton of sense. So,
Yeah.
So I don't know what, like, it's hard for me to say, oh, well, this is working in San Francisco, so therefore this is a great thing. It's like,
Well, I do think what happens in San
You know.
Francisco does, what happens in California, I've noticed, does, like, yoga started here, vegan,
Been going on for decades.
well,
it does sort of make its way
fashion
east.
and,
Yeah.
and habits and culture, but I'm just talking about like how people make a living. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
$4,000 a month for a one-bedroom apartment in San Francisco. My brother-in-law told me he's paying. He had a $2,700 a month one-bedroom, which I went to, was, not that big. And then he's like, well, I'm going to go test the market because I lost my thing. I think I'll get a better deal, get a bigger place. He paying $1,300 more for a one-bedroom. Same thing, just
Not a better building, better neighborhood.
$1,000 for and dog patch kind of area, whatever. It's unbelievable. It's more expensive than Manhattan now. San Francisco.
yeah.
It's crazy. And you still have all these patches there where it's incredibly dangerous too. Like we were at the WeWork area.
The new WeWork
where
office?
WeWork office is and Twitter is and Obvious is, like that stretch. What's that called over there?
Tenderloin.
Tenderloin, right. No, is that the Tenderloin, Dalton?
WeWork isn't exactly the Tenderloin, but it's near it.
Very
It's,
close.
but yeah, it's, I
Well,
wouldn't call it the Tenderloin, but it's near, yeah, I know where it is.
Like where Twitter is and all that stuff. It's really interesting to watch it flip over. But I just get the sense that like these affluent people are just going to keep paying more and more money for services and experiences to just optimize their life, and that actually will have some sort of a trickle down effect.
But hasn't that happened in New York for years already? There's always
Yeah.
been a served and be served,
Yeah.
serve and be served economy there. And that's what amazed me when I lived there and I was only 22,
Yeah.
23 and thought, oh my God, I'm barely on the side of like, I can afford to maybe have Chinese food to deliver to
Right.
my house, but I'm not going to pay someone to pick up my laundry, do it, and bring it back in 24 hours.
Right. You were a
That-
journalist.
Well, yeah, I work
That's
for you. I
And it
mean,
was a journalist, so that's.
come on.
Well, I mean, I wasn't making any money there either. Journalism was terrible. I mean, the idea of having a job in journalism is almost like laughable these days. Like there's just no way to actually make that living
Unless you're a social media, whatever.
if you're doing marketing. What else is crazy about that, Dalton, up there? What makes you just shake your head?
I mean, it's just, it feels like a company town, man. Like you go everywhere and everyone's talking about their Angel Round and their seed deal and it's just, I don't know. I'm getting really burned out on it, just to love with you. Like I'm part, I'm saying I'm part of it. It's just like, when you live somewhere, when you leave the office, you want to feel like you're outside the office. I feel like I'm in the office when I'm not in the office.
That's pretty.
Yep.
It's the worst, man. Like I can't go anywhere or do anything without
Hearing about a startup.
people talking about
Yeah.
like what we're talking about right now, right? Like
Yeah.
what we talked about for the past 45 minutes.
Right.
That's like where it is. That's like
At the Muni stop, like you go to you go to a bar, you go to get coffee. Like I can't go to a Starbucks in San Francisco now. It's so dense with startups. Like, well, you've been with me, and you've been with me. Like, you go to a Starbucks, and we Tyler and I are sitting there, Karen and I are sitting there having a Starbucks, talking about something, and just a line of people come up. And the same thing at the Ace Hotel. Just this massive density of. All right, well, what's the? Did we miss anything? What's going on with the
You
NSA
want to talk
stuff?
about the NSA stuff? I mean,
I don't really want to talk about it. It's too depressing, but.
it is a bit depressing. I mean, the big thing was that the
Well, what's this SEC lift? The SEC said you can now, startups can say, or in 60 days,
We're raising money.
so a startup can say they're raising money.
Right. There's no more ban on solicitation. You still have to have accredited investors. You have to be making
Yeah.
a reasonable effort that
So
you're
general
targeting those folks.
solicitation is going to be okay.
Right. And so, that law has been on the books since 1932. It was really long
And the
overdue.
general solicitation about raising a fund is also now over too, right? Both of those things.
I just saw in regards to small
So
businesses.
Dalton, what do you think now as an entrepreneur? You think it's cool you could be able to tweet, "I'm raising a round for app.net, contact me"?
Look, if there's one problem I don't think that we have right now, it's that it's too hard to raise angel funding.
Yeah.
So I don't, again, maybe it'll help outside of San Francisco. This is what I mean about extrapolating. Maybe this will help bootstrap angel communities in places that have less of a tradition of angel funding, and that's fantastic. But in terms of solving a problem in my neck of the woods, if anything, this will just get more crappy, scammy deals getting funded, which is just not, that's why these rules existed to begin with regarding accreditation and whatnot, right? Was to try to to keep
Protect grandma.
fraudsters from investing in a hot new convertible seed round.
Yeah.
That was the whole point. So
We have an incredible gold mine in California and an app that lets food be delivered directly to your doorstep.
yeah, exactly.
Which would you prefer to? You can invest in both. A gold mine in California and an app in California that allows you to deliver food to your doorstep. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, the Jobs Act signed last year will eventually allow non-accredited investors to invest, but that's not part of this
That was
rule.
supposed to be done in January, and we're now in the summer.
It hasn't happened.
Remember I said they're going to filibuster it and never gets done? Never gets done. Non-accredited investors will remain poor. If you use Facebook or LinkedIn before it went public and you knew as a poor person, using air quotes there, that you could have put $1,000 of your $20,000 in the bank into LinkedIn and you knew that was a sure bet and you could have gone 20x on your money, guess what? The government thinks you're too stupid to do it. F you, government. It's just rich people protecting themselves from competition. The boys club at its worst. Everybody knew that Facebook, Farmville, and LinkedIn and Twitter were going to be big hits. Anybody should have been allowed to invest in those companies. Anybody should be able to put $500. I can't wait till if they get
Anybody
that done.
should be allowed on second market.
It'd be or AngelList or whatever. I mean, I think it's gonna be great for me or for Scoble or for Kevin Rose. Like, Kevin Rose could be like, I have an idea for a startup. It's gonna require it's like sort of like a mini Kickstarter. I need 100 investors, put in $1,000 each, and we'll try making this app. And if you do it, you each get 1% of the company. Let's go. Oh, well, that would be too much. But you'll each get 25 basis points, and you'll have 25% of the company in aggregate. Let's try.
So the reason I don't love that idea and the reason I like Kickstarter is that if regular people can invest in a product to manifest a product existing, I think that's awesome, right? Because then you know what you get at the end. Whereas like a less sophisticated investor that may not understand the rights that you get as an angel investor and that like what information rights do you have, you've heard all these bad stories about less sophisticated investors like calling you all the time for their $5,000 investment.
Ugh, yeah.
But that's going to happen at scale, right? Like that's what this opens up the door for is that, people care a lot about their $1,000 or what have you. And so to me, like the Kickstarter, okay, here's your product. And if you don't get your product in time, you're going to be blowing up the phones being like, where's my Ouya, right? Like, where's my Ouya? I want it. It's broken. That's
I think
I own 0.00001% of Ouya. I demand the CEO gets on the phone with me.
Yeah.
Like that's a problem, right?
Yeah, it is.
You don't
I
have
agree.
to take the money, even if it's an option.
No, I mean, let's say for people who are up against it, right? Like, so if you can raise money, like, I don't need to go to the public to raise money for Inside.com, but it's kind of there's something cool about having a fan base who each own a share, like in the Green Bay Packers, is it the ones who like the fans own the team?
Yeah, that's a stock situation.
Yeah, but I mean, this is essentially what you'd be doing is you could make a public stock. So I could be like, hey, listen, the launch conference is worth $10 million, and I'm going to sell $1 million of it to the fans. I need 1,000 people to put $1,000 in each, and you could own whatever, 10 basis points. Let's go. I would get those people easily. Or if like you're starting and like, hey, you get to buy a lifetime ticket, or you get a ticket for the next 10 years for $10,000, and you have equity, right? So that's the thing that I like. Like, imagine you could be like, hey, invest $10,000, you get 10 basis points in the company, right? So for that means $100,000 value for 1%. So 10% would be worth $1 million, right? So, okay, now you have $1 million, you own 10 basis points, but we're going to give you $10,000 in tickets that you can use anytime over the next 10 years to come to any launch festival or any launch event. So it's like, oh, well, I'm getting, double value. I would have bought the tickets to the events anyway, and I do that. Like, that's where I think it gets sort of interesting is like, you get the ouya and you get a little equity. Like a pot sweetener.
If you end up being successful, yeah. And if you don't, then
It's a free roll.
Right.
Free rolling. Like,
People
hey.
have to understand that there may
Anyway.
maybe nothing there.
Tyler Crowley, thanks for the great insight, and welcome back to LA. The fans are going crazy in the chat room, but they did want an insight.
Do the FCC one.
All right, what's the which one?
What else do we got?
Well, we skipped the NSA stuff.
And do NSA.
You have an
All right, here we go.
NSA
Tyler's
one?
going to try to do one. Go ahead.
Pick any of them.
Pick any of them?
I'll pull one out here.
All right, here we go.
Any
Just do the
story.
SEC one. He'll do an insight. Here we go.
All right.
NSA.
So
No pressure.
starting
NSA.
in the mid-2000s, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court broadened the word relevant to permit a database of records on millions of people. Relevant is conservatively interpreted, however, in criminal cases. There's been a secret interpretation of the Patriot Act. Certain members of Congress have been saying for years. They confirmed to the Wall Street Journal that this interpretation of relevant is what they meant. Now, the FISC, this Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, has separate precedents from federal courts. Their
The
investigation,
FISA court.
yeah, right. So the whole idea is that,
And the head of the Supreme Court,
gets to choose every judge who's on
the
this court.
FISA.
And there's no confirmation process, nothing. And of course,
so there's a secret court
they're appointed for 7
with
years.
secret appointees. Do we
Yes.
know the appointees, or their names remain secret?
I think they're not. I think they're public, but they're appointed for a certain term, and then the next Supreme Court
And
Chief
so
Justice can pick
the
more.
key word in the sentence is relevant. Is that the?
Relevance. So in terms of whether or not you can allow something to be considered, for a case, is it relevant? And so for terrorism-related cases, relevance has been expanded. So if you have a criminal situation where you're like,
so
did this
loathsome.
guy actually do this? You can't bring in all this data of other people because it's
Right.
not relevant.
But the
if you're talking
entire
terrorism,
Verizon phone system
could be
records
relevant.
could be technically relevant to the Boston bombing.
And so
Therefore,
they're not using the same standard that you would in a criminal case, not the same precedent that the Supreme Court set back in 1991 regarding relevance. I mean, if you were in a criminal situation, this would not have worked.
right, if you're in a criminal situation and they're like, oh, we need to get, I don't know, Jason was speeding. We need to get, everywhere his GPS has ever been for the
Right.
history of his life and his whatever.
The judge would say it's not relevant.
It's not relevant. We just want to know if he was speeding on this one day.
Right.
We don't need his history of speeding. That's not relevant to the case.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So now that you know that that's the way the NSA has been operating, what do you think should happen?
I have changed my position on this a little bit. Like I think Snowden is, I don't want to use the word hero, but I do think that as we peel back the onion, this is getting worse and worse and worse, and that history will look
Well,
at.
he's a whistleblower. Can we say he's a whistleblower?
He's a whistleblower.
Justified whistleblower, and
Yeah.
right, like that.
I love that.
So-
I love that description, Dalton.
Justified.
I think it's like. Now, I will say Bradley Manning. I don't think it was justified for a military officer to download an entire database and give it to a douche like Assange to then just put out there. I think the key thing is intent and the thoroughness of the person who is whistleblowing. And I feel with Snowden, he is so thorough about this and so considered that I trust him to leak. I trust him to read what he knows and to say, this is something you as the public deserve to know. And by the way, here's something we're doing in North Korea where we're spying on Kim Jong-un and we have these people placed in there. I'm not going to release that. Because you don't see him doing that reckless releasing that happened in the Bradley Manning, Julian Assange debacle. Like, that whole situation to me was abhorrent. Like, we have operatives who are,
don't wanna-
undercover,
sure.
and we have these people in other countries who have put their families' lives at risk, and you released every document because you're an anarchist like Julian Assange is, and you want to cause massive damage because you disagree with the wars. I disagree with the wars too. I don't think that means you should go for the anarchist,
Screw everybody.
Scorched earth. Julian Assange went scorched earth with Bradley Manning. And Bradley Manning is a disturbed kid, I think, who was very impressionable and very sensitive and perhaps he's got, bipolar, he's got depression or something like that. And he just felt overwhelmed by seeing murder and all the terrible stuff that happens in the field. And he just got talked into giving everything to Julian Assange, who just was concerned with fame. So I kind of It feels
Very
to me like
different.
Snowden and Bradley Manning are two different animals. Now, if Bradley
Right,
Manning
but what's-
read everything and released just the collateral damage video, I would feel differently about it. What do you think, Dalton?
I mean, I think what's tough about this topic is that I feel like the story has been hijacked by the individuals and the people and not the actual story. I was reading a piece about this the other day, how people stopped paying attention to what was actually happening and how it happened, and now the story is actually just about Snowden. And I think he almost doesn't want that to be the case. Like, obviously he wants to get asylum, but the fact that now the story is about him instead of what was going on, that's super counterproductive from his whistleblower goals, right? So what I really want to know is what the hell is actually happening. I still don't, people ask me about this all the time because I'm running a service. They're like, well, what's happening, Dalton? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I asked some of my friends in the press about how this is working and how, who's lying about all this. The only party I really trust here is the EFF, and I still think they may not necessarily know what's going on.
They definitely
so-
don't know.
Well, a federal
So
judge
I'm-
ruled that their case, Jewel versus NSA, can move forward, and that was back with the thing from a
good.
few years ago that to end NSA surveillance of AT&T customers. It's a case from 2008.
I'm ashamed, honestly, of our country, and I think this is a huge disservice to American internet companies, and this really hurts the legitimacy of American technology companies. So I'm really disappointed with
Yeah.
this whole damn thing.
And they can't talk about it. It's just like, why are we gagging these companies? You drag the companies through the mud, right? Like Google and Microsoft and Yahoo and
They
Facebook and
felt
Twitter.
they had to cooperate.
Yeah, well, of course they do. You can't. What are you gonna do? Have your employees go to jail? I mean, there's nothing you can do. You can't be like, oh, I'm Dick Costello. I'm gonna just ignore the FISA court and the Supreme Court of America, and I'm gonna go to jail and my 10 other.
But there's no due process. It's all secret. Like, this
Exactly.
is the issue. This is like, is that with like DMCA takedowns, with most legal action, there is due process. And this apparently has been all happening in secret, and no one actually even knows to what extent things have been happening.
This is what
So
needs.
it's totally crazy.
This is what needs to happen right now. We need to have a Spartacus moment. We need to have 10 more Snowdens come out. And I know this is very dangerous. And listen, I'm not going to be the guy to do it. If I had the information, I got a daughter, I got a family to take care of. I wouldn't want to risk me going to jail for the rest of my life and my daughter not seeing me for her childhood. I can't do it. But there's some young guys and gals who work in IT who can take this risk, who maybe don't have families. They need to get all that information. They need to give it to Anonymous. And they need to blow the lid on this. They just have to blow the doors off everything. And they have to do it intelligently so they don't get caught like Snowden. And they're not like stuck in a,
holding area.
holding area.
Moscow
How is he
airport.
taking showers? Where does he sleep? That's what I really want to know. Like,
I'm
how is
assuming
Snowden
there's
taking?
like a little like.
Is there a hotel there? Is he staying in a hotel room? Is he staying in a broom closet? I want to know this information. I don't know why. I keep thinking, everybody's thinking about that too, right? Like, where is he actually sleeping and taking a shower?
I stayed in that transit that exact airport's transit center, exactly
Yeah.
where he is for when I go to Sweden. I do layovers
Yeah.
when I take Airflot.
Because Tyler takes the cheap flights.
Well, I didn't know that was why they were cheap, because Airflot has a bad record of crashing. Now I know.
Yeah.
So I don't take Airflot anymore. But when I didn't know better, I did stay in that terminal for about 15 hours one time.
Brutal.
Yeah, it is brutal. There is a Burger King in there though.
All right, so it's gonna
And
be fun.
that Burger King
But this
does
is actually
serve
what I
good
think has to
salads,
happen. This
by
is what
the
I think
way.
has to happen. I think you need to get like a couple of Google sysadmins, a couple of Facebook sysadmins, a couple of Twitter sysadmins. They got to get together.
And
they got to get.
They do have free Wi-Fi, and it's actually you can do Skype calls on it. by the way.
Yeah. I think Snowden needs to stay off the interwebs for now. If we just get 10 more Snowdens and they all leak this stuff, and we just have a massive, nonstop leak in this generation, this is the millennial moment. Like, I've dogged on millennials a little bit in the past about certain
A
things.
little bit.
Listen, if you're a millennial and oh my God, I got a mission statement and I've got all this purpose and blah, 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 and I need to, okay, well, step up. You're a millennial now, and you want to be purpose-driven, and you want to, okay, put up or shut up. All those millennials who are working in sysadmins, let's get this information. Let's give it to Anonymous. Let's give it to the journalists. And let's start getting some more information out there. Let's make it so that the United States and Obama and the NSA is just absolutely dealing with a relentless amount of leakage. And then it will become ridiculous that we're going to put 10, 15, 20 kids in jail for this. And 10, 20, 15 trials, you know what? People will get out on the streets. Because it's starting to feel like goddamn Egypt in this country. It's starting to feel like we're in
Wow.
You know what it's
Iran
like?
or something like that. I mean, I know people are not being tortured or whatever, but if they catch this kid, they're going to torture him. I mean, I don't put it past Obama to waterboard people. I mean, he's done as bad his behavior is as bad as Bush's in terms of this NSA stuff, probably worse. It seems like he's tripled down. So why wouldn't he waterboard somebody? Snowden could be thrown out of a plane. I mean, I think they're going to whack this kid.
I think there's an insight coming.
It's like a magician in a jewelry shop.
Wow, a magician in a jewelry shop. What does that mean?
It's like, imagine a magician going into a jewelry shop.
Yep.
And their whole profession is about making things disappear. Yeah.
It's like a kid in a candy store in a way.
Basically.
It's like you probably don't want this to happen. You know what the outcome will be.
And it won't be pretty.
It won't be pretty.
He won't be caught or held accountable or whatever. He's going to make whatever happens. But that's what happens when somebody has that much power. And the whole point was this was all supposed to be kept secret. His whistleblowing was the fact that there was this whistle to blow.
Right.
And what I'm worried about is this story is just going to turn into like, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego for Snowden? And we're all going to forget about what the hell he was trying to whistleblow to begin with, right? That's what I'm worried about. It's going to happen.
It's already started. I think it's a very good pressing point.
He could make this an amazing game. By the way, like this could turn into an awesome virtual game of sorts.
Well, I hope that we don't get into this like processing pop culture thing with this issue, because this is not a pop culture issue. This is like deadly serious. Like this is a watershed moment in the history of our country. Which this is the thing that really upsets me about it is we have had the high ground for so many decades. For my entire life, I've looked at America. Always had the high ground. It was always able to say to other countries, "This is the way to do it." There are ramifications, sure. We don't have kangaroo courts. We can't just put people to death. We can't just, have secret police. And so, some people are going to get off, right? Some people who are guilty will get off in our system. And, it's going to be hard to catch criminals in our system. And it's hard to get them to go to jail. But you know what? We're going to live with that because we want to have a free society. And now we're doing the exact opposite. And everybody in the world is rightly calling us out on it. The Chinese, the Russians, the Egyptians, the Iranians, Iraqis, Afghanistan, the Russians, they're all laughing at us. Ha ha, you guys claimed you were above it all. You were the shining example. And now you're doing exactly what for decades you said you wouldn't do. Human rights abuses, torture, kangaroo courts, secret courts. I mean, we have the goddamn Stasi in this fucking country. It's unbelievable. That's my other $10. It's a Stasi nation. I mean, this is what the Stasi did. Go see the movie The Lives of Others.
Are you worried about your neighbors ratting you out?
It feels like we're getting to that point. I mean, of course it's going to, get to that point. I mean, we're going to be in a paranoid world.
Or you're going to be living in a bunker in Montana.
It's already getting paranoid. Everybody who's here is absolutely thinking about what's on their computer, what they're surfing, and what's being listened to right now. Am I correct?
Sure.
Everybody's thought about that. Everybody's thinking about that. I have a VPN now. I'm using Tor.
Look at DuckDuckGo's growth.
Exactly. DuckDuckGo is going through the roof. Everybody should be thinking that they're being spied on right now. And, you need to have some level of your personal life to go on the internet and search for what you want and explore things and think about things without thinking that every move is being recorded. And every move is being recorded, and it's going to lead to everybody being paranoid, just like in, the movies. It's just sad. All right, well, this has been a depressing episode of This Week in Startups. Thanks to our sponsors, New Relic.
I tried to end on a good note.
No, thanks to Walker Corporate Law at New Relic, and I apologize for ending on a downer. Hey, Dalton Caldwell, you're always a great guest. Everybody follow Dalton C at Dalton C and check out app.net. You can follow me. I'm at Jason on app.net. Good luck with everything, Dalton.
Thanks, man.
And Tyler Crowley, welcome back. Hopefully you'll be on a bunch more episodes. And thanks to our super fan and Matt Mullenweg, episode 361. Good choice. And Kieran Colley, a great job on the news. We'll see everybody next time on This Week in Startups. Bye-bye. Thanks, Dalton.